My father asked me to run his construction business when he got sick. I left my job, moved states, and doubled the profits in a year. When he recovered, he brought my older brother back from abroad and gave him my position. It was always meant to be his, he said. You were just filling in. I was told to train him, then step down. I did, quietly. But I also made one final change to the software they still use, and when it activated, my name is Rick. I'm 38 now. This happened when I was 35. I used to live in Denver, Colorado, working a solid job in IT for a real estate company. Good pay, steady hours, a decent boss. I wasn't climbing some crazy ladder or trying to be rich, just building a life. I had a small house, a dog, and a few close friends. Life wasn't exciting, but it was stable. Then my dad called. He was in Fort Worth, Texas, where I grew up. He ran a small construction business that had been in the family since my grandfather's time. My older brother, Brian, had moved abroad years ago, chasing women, some startup dreams, or whatever else seemed more exciting than pouring concrete and managing work crews in the Texas heat. When Dad called, he sounded tired. He said he was sick. Not dying, but sick enough to need help. He told me the business was struggling, the books were a mess, and the crews were constantly late or cutting corners. I asked him what the plan was. He said, I need you to come down here and help me run things. Maybe take over for a bit. I hesitated. I had a job, a life. I wasn't sure I wanted to throw it all away to manage drywall orders and employee drama. But he was my dad. So I did it. I quit my job, sold my house, packed everything into a U-Haul, and drove down to Fort Worth. It wasn't pretty when I got there. The office was falling apart, and the software they were using to run the business was so outdated it looked like it came with a floppy disk. The crews weren't being held accountable. No one checked receipts or job logs. Money was just bleeding out. I didn't complain. I just got to work. I spent the first few weeks fixing systems. I updated the software to a cloud-based solution I knew from my old job. I built a custom dashboard that showed us everything in real time, where the crews were, how much we were spending, how long jobs were taking. I put GPS on the trucks, set up time tracking, got firm with some guys who weren't doing their jobs, fired 2 crew chiefs who were pocketing gas money, and hired people who actually gave a damn. Within 6 months, we were running lean. Jobs that took 12 weeks got done in 9. Our bids got sharper. Clients stopped complaining. I landed 2 big contracts with a couple of local businesses that needed major renovations. By the end of the year, profits had doubled. I was working 70-hour weeks, but it was working. My dad seemed proud. He kept saying things like, "You really turned this place around." I believed I had a future there. Then Brian came back. Out of nowhere, he flew in from Spain or Italy or wherever he was living. He showed up one Monday morning, wearing designer sunglasses and loafers, like he was coming back from a vacation. My dad introduced him to the staff like some kind of prodigal son. "This is Brian," he said. "He's gonna start shadowing Rick and learn the ropes." I was confused. Later that night, I asked my dad what was going on. He didn't even look guilty. He just said, "It was always meant to be his. You were just filling in." Just filling in. Like I was a substitute teacher or a temp. He said, "You've done great. But now that I'm feeling better, I want to step back and Brian will take over." I couldn't believe it. The business was dead when I got here. I gave up my life to save it. And now he wanted me to hand it all over to the guy who ran off and never cared? I kept my cool. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I said, "Fine." He told me to train Brian. So I did. For 3 months, I taught Brian everything. I handed over the contracts, walked him through the dashboard, the client relationships, the payroll. I even showed him how to handle the new bidding process. He kept acting like he was doing me a favor. Kept calling me boss man with that stupid smirk, like this was all a game. Inside, I was boiling. But on the outside, I smiled and nodded. When it came time for me to leave, they threw a little farewell lunch. Pizza and soda in the break room. No speech. No plaqué. Just a "thanks, Rick." I walked out the door like a ghost. No job. No home. Just me, my dog, and a bunch of bitterness packed tight in my chest. But I didn't leave without doing one last thing. That custom software I built, the one running everything from scheduling to payroll, it had a backend they didn't understand. I was the only one who ever touched the admin settings. So, before I left, I added something. A quiet little script. Not malicious. Not illegal. Just disruptive. It was set to activate 90 days after my account was deactivated. What it did was simple. It scrambled the project schedules. Not visibly, not right away. Just enough to shift job start dates, flip resource assignments, double book crews. It created slow, creeping chaos. Nothing that screamed sabotage. Just problems. Just delays. Just missed deliveries. Clients getting annoyed. Workers not knowing where to be. It would take them months to figure it out. Then I deleted my admin access and walked away. At first, I stayed quiet. I took a short contract gig in Austin doing IT consulting. Paid the bills. Let me stay under the radar. But I kept tabs on them. 3 months in, I started hearing things. One of the crew chiefs I used to work with texted me. "Hey man, they're drowning without you. Projects are late, clients are pissed. Brian doesn't know what he's doing." I just replied, "Hope it works out for them." 6 months after I left, the big contracts I landed had backed out. One of them sued over missed deadlines. The Yelp reviews tanked. I even heard they had to fire 2 office staffers to make payroll. My dad was forced to come back in part-time. Brian had no clue how to fix anything. They tried to bring in an IT guy to clean things up, but the custom script was built so subtly that unless you knew the system like I did, it just looked like human error. Eventually, they replaced the software entirely. Cost them tens of thousands to migrate and retrain. They never called me. They never apologized. But I got my revenge. Quiet, clean, and complete. And it wasn't about crashing the business or watching it burn. It was about showing them what they lost. They didn't just lose a worker. They lost the one person who cared enough to fix what was broken. They thought I was just filling in. Turns out I was the one holding it all together. I thought I was done with them. After everything, I figured I could finally move on. Let them sink or swim. I had proved my point without saying a word. But about 8 months after I left, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was short, just a man's voice, rough and panicked. "Rick, it's Miguel. Call me, please. It's bad." Miguel was one of the few foremen I trusted when I ran the company. He worked hard, never stole, and had been with the company for years. I hadn't talked to him since I left. I called him back. He picked up right away and didn't even say hello. He just started talking. "Rick, you need to see what's happening. It's a mess. Brian's running this place into the ground. He's changing up how we bid. He hired his buddy from college, some marketing guy, to help rebrand. They spent $5,000 on a new logo and some promo videos, but the crews are getting stiffed. Payroll was late again this week." I didn't know what to say. I'd been gone almost a year at that point. Miguel went on, "And your dad's not doing anything. He just sits there, acting like it's fine. Like Brian's got it under control." I told him I couldn't help. "I'm not part of it anymore," I said. He sighed. "I know, but they're talking about firing a bunch of guys. Laying off the crew from the Denton job. That's guys with families, man." That hit me harder than I expected. I told Miguel I'd think about it. I didn't want to get involved. But I started watching again. I made a dummy LinkedIn and followed the company page. I checked the reviews. I found a Reddit thread where a subcontractor posted about how ******* construction stiffed us for 3 weeks of work. Do not recommend. Then something else happened. I got a call from a client I had worked with during my time there. Her name was Nancy. She owned a chain of daycare centers in the DFW area. I had personally handled a renovation for one of her locations. She said, "Rick, I know you're not with the company anymore, but can you tell me who I talked to about damages? The new crew did some work at our Garland location, and now the plumbing's leaking into the toddler room." I felt a chill go down my back. She told me she'd called Brian 4 times, and he hadn't responded. Same with the office manager. I asked her to email me photos.
She did.
Water damage, sagging ceiling tiles, stained floor mats. I couldn't ignore that. So I called the office. I didn't expect anyone to answer, but they did. A young guy named Tyler, someone I hadn't hired. He sounded frazzled. "Hey, this is Tyler from construction. How can I help you?" I told him who I was. The line went silent. Then he said, "Oh, I thought you didn't work here anymore."
I don't, I said.
But Nancy called me. You know, from Little Acorns Daycare?
He groaned. Yeah.
Brian said we weren't liable. Said it was an old building. I kept my voice calm. It wasn't old when we finished it last year. It passed inspection. Something must have gone wrong during the new work. There was a long pause. Then he said, "Honestly, man, I think they're just trying to wait her out. Brian told us not to respond unless it's legal." I got off that call and sat in silence for a long time. They were trashing the business. And more than that, they were putting kids at risk. That job had my name on it. I'd done everything by the book. And now it was falling apart. A week later, Miguel texted me again. They fired Jimmy. No notice. He's 56 and has cancer. What the hell is going on? That was it. I knew I had to do something. But not out of revenge this time. I didn't care if they failed anymore. I just didn't want to see good people suffer for their mistakes. So I started talking to the old crew. Quietly. On weekends. Over beers. Jimmy, Miguel, Sarah from accounting, old man Roy, who handled permits. I asked them everything. And I learned the truth. Brian had been skimming again, just like he did back when he was 25 and Dad caught him borrowing from petty cash. Only now it wasn't just small stuff. It was full-blown manipulation of bid estimates. Padding expenses. Pushing side deals with suppliers. He gave jobs to buddies, overpaid for materials, and took kickbacks under the table. The worst part?
Dad knew.
He wasn't sick anymore, but he wasn't in charge either. He came in late, signed off on whatever Brian put in front of him, and went home early. He was tired. Maybe guilty. Maybe in denial. And Brian was running wild. That's when I started making copies. Old contracts, email records, accounting files. I still had access to the server from an old backup I never deleted. I created a new folder on my private drive. Insurance. Every night I backed up more. I built a timeline. Paper trails. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I wanted to be ready. Then one day, out of nowhere, my dad called. I hadn't heard from him in almost a year. He said, "Rick, we need to talk." I agreed to meet at a diner just outside of town. When I walked in, he already looked smaller. Not sick, but like a man worn out from watching everything he built fall apart. He didn't waste time. "Did you do something to the software?" he asked. I took a sip of coffee. "Yes." He nodded like he already knew. "Brian thinks we got hacked." I didn't say anything. Then he said, "We're getting audited. And there's talk of a lawsuit from one of the schools we built for." I raised an eyebrow. And he looked down at his hands. "I made a mistake. I should have never let you go. I was wrong. I see that now." I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness. Not pride. Just disbelief. Then he said, "I want you to come back. Help fix this." I laughed. Loud. Bitter. "You want me to clean up the mess you let Brian make?" He looked tired. "He's my son." I stood up. "So am I." I left him sitting there with his cold eggs and regret. What he didn't know was that I was already talking to Nancy's lawyer. I had handed over my documents. And I'd started making calls to the licensing board, the local contractors association, even the IRS tip line. Quietly. With evidence. I wasn't trying to destroy the company. But I wasn't going to let them destroy other people, either. And what came next? Well, that's when it got even more twisted. Because Brian didn't just get scared, he got aggressive. Real aggressive. And he made a mistake that turned everything into a full-blown war. About 2 weeks after that meeting with my dad at the diner, I started getting weird emails. At first, they looked like spam. Just random junk from strange accounts. But then I noticed one had a screenshot attached of a private message I sent to Miguel weeks earlier. Nothing crazy, just me asking for copies of some site reports. Still, that message had only been between us. Then came another one. It was a blurry photo taken from across a parking lot. It was me, standing outside Nancy's daycare, talking to her and her attorney. That's when I knew Brian was watching me. I called Miguel right away. He answered on the second ring, whispering like he was in a bathroom. "Rick," he said, "I didn't want to tell you, but Brian's paranoid. He hired some guy, like a PI or something. Said he needed to keep tabs on old employees trying to sabotage him. So now I was being watched. For what? Trying to stop them from getting sued into the ground?" Miguel said, "He thinks you're going to turn him in. He's been snapping at everyone. Told the office to start wiping old emails." Too late for that. I already had hundreds of pages backed up, organized, and timestamped. Then came the real twist. I got a call from a woman named Jessica. I didn't know her, but she introduced herself as Brian's ex. They had dated overseas, broken up right before he moved back. She found me on LinkedIn somehow. "I saw your name come up on a construction forum," she said. "There were people talking about Brian. And I don't know you, but I need to tell you something."
She didn't hold back.
Turns out, Brian hadn't just left Europe because he missed home. He left because he was under investigation there, too. Fraud, theft, a business partner accusing him of embezzlement. She said she'd seen things, documents, secret bank transfers. He skipped the country before anything went to court. Nothing official followed him back because he never got formally charged. Now it all made sense. The fake confidence, the fake marketing guy, the kickbacks. It was all just part of his pattern. Jessica said, "He always finds someone to clean up after him. Your dad.
You.
And when it all crashes, he runs." I thanked her, hung up, sat in silence for a long time. I knew what I had to do, but I didn't expect what happened next. That same week, I got served a lawsuit from the company. They were accusing me of unauthorized access to proprietary systems and intellectual property interference. In plain terms, they were blaming me for the failing software, for lost contracts, and for sabotaging operations after I left. Brian was trying to flip the script. I read through the suit, line by line. It was weak, mostly bluff. But still, it forced me to respond. Forced me to lawyer up. Cost me time and money. The kicker? He filed it personally through the company, but with his own lawyer, not the firm the company usually used. Which told me one thing. He didn't tell our dad. So, I made a choice. I walked straight into the Fort Worth Licensing Board and handed over a full report. Then I went to the Texas Comptroller's office and filed a formal whistleblower complaint, including all the backup I had, emails, invoices, text messages, everything. Fraud, tax evasion, worker exploitation. It was all there. Then I sent one last package. To my dad. A padded envelope. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. "You told me it was always meant to be his. Here's what that really looks like. I hope you're proud." A week passed.
2.
Then everything exploded. I started getting calls from former coworkers, some crying, some laughing. The office had been raided by state investigators.
Computers seized. Files gone.
My dad had to be escorted out because he wasn't technically in charge anymore. Brian? Nowhere to be found. He ran. Again. Cleared out his apartment. Emptied a shared account with the company's last $90,000 in it. Nobody's heard from him since. But this story isn't over. Because when they started digging, they found something none of us knew. Turns out, Brian had forged my dad's signature on at least 3 contracts. And one of those deals involved under-the-table labor, unlicensed subcontractors working in unsafe conditions on a school building. That kicked off a whole different kind of investigation. My dad tried to play dumb. Said he was out of the loop, recovering from his illness. But it didn't matter. The fines hit him hard. The company was suspended from bidding on public projects. 2 lawsuits moved forward. The local news ran a short segment on corruption and mismanagement at a family-owned construction company. It got real ugly. And yet, somehow, the part that stung me the most? My dad still never called me. Not to say he was sorry. Not to admit I was right. He just disappeared into silence, still protecting the son who ruined everything. But I wasn't done yet. Because while Brian ran and my dad hid, I was already working on something else. Something bigger. Something final. And this time, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about showing the whole town what they really were: liars, cowards, and users. I was going to hit them where it hurt most: legacy, reputation, and name. And I already had the first domino ready to fall. It all came to a head just after Christmas. The town was still covered in cheap lights and fake snow stuck to shop windows. People were slowing down for the holidays. But I wasn't. I had spent the last few months building something behind the scenes, something bigger than one lawsuit or one complaint. I was working with Nancy's lawyer, who had a sharp mind and a long memory. Together, we were putting together a class action suit. 8 former clients signed on. 3 old crew members added their own wage claims. 2 subcontractors who'd been shorted jumped in too. All of them had one thing in common. They'd been burned by Brian, and in some way, my dad had let it happen. But I knew lawsuits would take years. I wanted something faster. So I called a friend of mine from Austin, Chris. We'd worked together back when I was in IT, and he had moved into cybersecurity and reputation defense. But he also knew how to reverse that. I sent him everything. All the files, all the screenshots, all the names. Then I asked one question. Can you bury them? His answer was simple. Absolutely. 2 weeks later, it started. Local news got a tip from an anonymous former employee about financial fraud and safety violations in school buildings. They did a full segment, included interviews with Miguel, a few parents, and even a city inspector. One mom cried on air. The city canceled a pending contract they had with the company. Then an exposé went online. A detailed article written by a local blogger with screenshots, receipts, and timelines. It named Brian. It named my dad. It mentioned everything, from the kickbacks to the missing money, to the forged signatures. It even pointed out that I had originally saved the company, only to be tossed aside like garbage. It spread fast. Then the bigger sites picked it up. Family business implodes in Texas fraud scandal. The story blew up. Hundreds of shares. Local TV covered it again. I watched the views climb from my laptop in a rented apartment across town. And then came the final blow. Chris made sure that every time someone searched the company's name or my dad's full name, they'd see the article, the video, and the lawsuit info. Forever.
There was no coming back from that.
The company's phone stopped ringing. The website went down. They closed their office within 3 weeks. My dad, he finally called. Voice shaky.
Old.
Broken. What did you do, Rick? I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just told him the truth. I gave people the truth. The same truth you ignored when you chose Brian.
He didn't argue.
He didn't even hang up. He just sat there on the other end, breathing. That was the last time I ever heard from him. Word got out that he sold the house. Moved in with a cousin up north. His name was Poison in Fort Worth. People whispered about him in supply stores, and some former clients sued him directly once the company dissolved. As for Brian, he got caught. FBI flagged his passport when he tried to enter Canada under a fake name. Fraud and wire crimes from his business overseas caught up to him. Interpol had him on a watch list. He's in a holding facility now, waiting for extradition. He'll be locked up for years. The best part? He'll never know which mistake finally brought him down. He burned so many people, he'll never be sure who lit the final match. As for me, I didn't walk away clean. I lost a year of my life to their mess. I burned bridges. I had to explain to every potential client why I had lawsuits and drama attached to my name, even if I was the one telling the truth. Some people believed me. Some didn't. I still wake up angry some mornings, but I sleep better now. Because they thought I was weak. A placeholder. A fill-in. They thought they could use me, throw me out, and never look back. But they forgot something. I built the system. I knew where every nail was driven, every shortcut taken, every lie covered up. And when they turned their backs on me, they handed me every weapon I needed to take them down. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. But in the end, I didn't just get revenge. I erased them. Their business is gone. Their reputation?
Gone.
Their power?
Gone.
And all I had to do was tell the truth, loud enough for the world to hear it. They made their choices. They paid the price. And me? I started over. New city. New business. My name, my rules. No family to screw me over this time. Just a quiet office, honest clients, and a sign on the wall that says, "Earn it or lose it." Every day I walk past it and remember what they did and what I did back.